evening. Good evening. There you go. All right. So good evening again. This is Colonel Clydea Prichard-Brown, and welcome to the March session of the FMMP, Female Mentoring and Morale Program. And more importantly, welcome to the FMMP Women's History Month celebration. And I am so excited and so honored to have such great women in here, but also our brothers in arms in here to just be able to talk about how women's history has impacted the military as a whole, but not only just that, just overall how we as women impact the Army as well as society. And the good thing about it is, since it's Women's History Month, we get to focus on what women have done for society, what women have done for the military. And so with that, before we get started on any session, we always enter it with an invocation or a prayer, and that gets us off on a great evening, just so we can all fellowship together. So with that, I'm going to have Captain Mary Tang start us off with a great prayer. Mary? Oh, got to get you off of mute. Mari, can you release Mary off of mute? Okay, well, Mari is probably very still on mute, so let me go on and get that prayer started. Father, we come to you this evening, and we thank you just for allowing us to have another opportunity to come and celebrate your name and celebrate the fellowship and the camaraderie that we've gained over our time in the military and outside in the military. Father, we ask that you watch over this evening and guide us, guide our words, allow us to teach, coach, and mentor those who are seeking some information and seeking guidance and understanding in the ways of how to live in the military, how to live as brothers and sisters in the military, and then acknowledging all of the great and wonderful things that the women in the military have done and have brought us to help us change a culture and to help us understand our value in society, our value in the military, and our value at having a seat at the table. In your Son, Jesus Christ's name, we thank you, we praise you. Amen. All right. And so with that, we're still letting people in. I see them all coming in. So one of the reasons we wanted to choose tonight to make this a special celebration, we looked at our theme, Her Story is Still Being Written. And so tonight we have, I will say, four phenomenal, but I'm one of the ones talking. So I have three phenomenal sisters joining me tonight to bring a message to you about being an 06 Colonel. And why did we choose that as a theme? As you all know, we had the Female Roundup Challenge, Female 06 Roundup. And the reason I wanted to do that, and we as a group decided to make that a theme, is because we wanted to make sure everybody understood that there is a significance in making the rank of 06. There's a significance of going throughout the military and growing as a non-commissioned officer, as a warrant officer, and as a commissioned officer. But the rank of 06 is the most senior rank as a field grade officer before you become a general officer. What's the significance of being a general officer is general officers become the decision makers for how our Army, how our military will change, or how our military will operate. They're now at the level where they decide what policies go into place, what procedures happen, what units and organizations will do to improve the diversity, equity, and inclusion, or improve the daily life of a soldier or a civilian government employee in the military. And so we chose this theme for this month and this year's theme for Women's History Month to highlight all of the 06 women, the women that have made the rank of colonel. And we also have to acknowledge the women that have gone from lieutenant colonel to lieutenant colonel promotable, because the lists were just released. And I have some stats, and I promised you I was going to provide some stats so that you'll understand exactly where we're coming, where we've been, and where we're going to. And so just recently, as of today, in the Army as a total, we have 2,833 colonels total on active duty. Of that 2,833 total, only 259 of those colonels are female. That's 9% of the colonels that are currently on active duty right now. I'm happy to report, however, that There are currently 662 total lieutenant colonel promotables. So all the lieutenant colonel promotables that joined us tonight, first of all, congratulations. We are so proud that you made it to the next rank. Congratulations, because we know you're going to keep the fight going. We know you're going to continue to make moves and make decisions in our military that's going to shape us for the better. But with that, out of the 662 total lieutenant colonel promotables that were just selected, only 90 were female. So out of 662 lieutenant colonels total, only 90 of those females, no, 90 of those were females. That's 14%. So now we went from 9% total females of 06, and now we're about to have an increase and make that 14% of our 06s. So that in itself is just an increase of showing where the Army is going, showing that we are now making a difference and are able to make the next rank. When we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, we know we have our minority numbers and then we have our gender numbers. And so we as a program focus on the gender aspect of it, but we're so proud of everyone that makes it to the next rank. And so with that, I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to bring you my sisters in arms right here on Fort Lee, as well as I count Colonel Fredericka Harris as my sister on Fort Lee because she has units up here and she takes care of us. So this evening, we have the honor of having 3 sitting brigade commanders right now. And the beauty of having 3 sitting brigade commanders sitting with me here at Fort Lee, or part of Fort Lee, is we see each other and we're here to help each other continue to be successful. But we also do that around the board. And so tonight you're going to have an opportunity to hear. We're going to have Captain Sierra Cooper Thomas, who's going to provide us the list of information that's in the chat room. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to put in the chat room and that we can bring it up as questions later on, please feel free to do so. She's going to monitor our chat room. She's part of our executive board. Also, we're going to have Captain Shalonda Estelle, who's our Deputy Director of the CASCOM chapter of FMMP. She's going to track all of our VIPs that have signed in this evening so that we can recognize all of our VIPs, i.e. general officers that are on the line. And I already know we have some awesome ones like my military mom, Lieutenant General Kathleen Gainey. I'm looking forward to seeing some more in here. Hopefully General Bingham will join us and a number of others. But also we have the opportunity to be able to hear from them later on just to give their thoughts on where we are now as a military. And then we're going to have Major Mari Lee, who's going to provide later on. She's going to give us the total number of 06 females that we have on here tonight. We wanted to make sure when we did our challenge, wanted to see how many people we could get in this evening so we can have them on the line. And we may have an opportunity to just hear some thoughts from them. But please know we're going to have an opportunity to have questions, have question and answer period, and then be able to just have an open dialogue before we end this evening. And so with that, I want to take a moment and start opening it up to our first guest speaker. Our 3 guest speakers this evening are Colonel Toni Rieke, who is the 23rd Quartermaster Brigade Commander here on Fort Lee, Virginia. Awesome life, awesome career, and I can't wait for her to share that with you as to why she joined the military, why she decided to stay in the military, what are the things that motivated her? And that's what we're asking all of our speakers tonight. The second guest speaker tonight is Colonel Karin Watson. She is our garrison commander here on Fort Lee. So she's ensuring that we're taken care of as far as our housing, our living conditions, all the resources here on Fort Lee. So she has a huge job. Not only are we on her installation, technically, but she makes sure that we have a great life, and she gets that support from Major General Simmerly, who's our commanding general here at Fort Lee. And last but not least, we have the awesome AFSB commander, 406 AFSB commander, is Colonel Fredericka Harris, my sister in arms, who has been all over the world. We are also excited when we see each other again because we keep each other motivated, we keep each other going. But Fredericka has hands all over different installations, ensuring that we're all taken care of as far as livelihood, LRC, to ensure that we have our dining facilities are cared for, our locations and our organizations are cared for, and the contracts. And so with that, I wanted to introduce all 3 of them. We're going to start out with Colonel Rieke, then we're going to go to Colonel Watson, and then we're going to go to Fredericka. And for those of you that have been on here plenty of times, I'm Colonel Prichard-Brown. I've been on here from the beginning because I am the founder of the FMMP. I will give you a little bit of my story, but for most of you, you've already heard some of my story, but I want to focus on the women that are on here tonight. And I will take the end and be able to conclude with some of my thoughts. And then we're going to open it up for question and answer period. And then we're going to have some open dialogue. So again, thank you all so much for coming in tonight. And we're going to open it up with Colonel Toni Rieke, 23rd Quartermaster Brigade Commander. Colonel Rieke.
Thanks, Dia. I appreciate that. I would just say this is a privilege to be here tonight, and thank you for asking me. I hope that what you get out of my story is it's about teamwork, and I can tell you that everyone that's on here tonight and the guest speakers, it takes all of us to be successful here at Fort Lee. It's one team, one fight. We all have our contributions. Colonel Harris, like you said, isn't here at Fort Lee, but we've even interacted and worked together over the last 6 months for mission set. So it doesn't matter. So just give you a little background from me. I'm a small town Missouri girl. I got a 25 plus years in. I started out joining the Army at the age of 17. I actually enlisted 7 days after my 17th birthday. And my dad was deployed to Desert Storm, Desert Shield at the time, so he had to sign some paperwork prior to that. But it's not to me about why I serve, but why I continued to serve. I always knew I was going to serve. I tell everybody, since I was 3 years old, I was wearing my dad's combat boots, his headgear, and his Vietnam olive drab uniform. And my mom reminds me of those pictures every day. But I joined when I was 17 without hesitation. He was deployed. I knew I was going to do it. I joined as a medic. I went split ops, so I delayed entry, went to basic as a medic. Well, I was supposed to be a medic, but I came back and I decided that, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be an officer. I think I wanted to change the world. And I don't know that being an officer, you change the world, but you do have impact on lives. So I went ROTC. I was fortunate enough to get an ROTC scholarship, but which also led for me more opportunities for women. I got to be a mentor and, maybe a role model, because I got to play D1 sports. The only way I was going to go to college and play sports. And for me, I had to play sports to get through college. Academics weren't my strong suit. Athletics probably was a little bit more where I was geared towards. So I got to play D1 college softball. And, I got it back, that's 20 plus years ago. Softball wasn't that big. You turn on ESPN today and you can watch women's fast pitch, almost every weekend now. That wasn't like that back then. But the other opportunity I got was to be a part of the first year of the Women's Professional Fast Pitch League. I got to be a pioneer for that starting league. And, so both of those, it was all about teamwork because we weren't successful without each other. But then the Army had different plans. They decided that I was going to do 4 years of active duty. And, I was the one that went into the ROTC PMS and said, sir, you can take all your points away from me. I wanted to go to the Army Reserves and I want to coach softball. But that didn't happen. So I went and said, okay, I'll do my 4 years. 25 years later, here I am. And the reason is because I love what I do in each and every day. My first assignment was Fort Bragg. I got to, serve under General Dunwoody. And I got to see that strong leadership back then. That was a start. But what I realized was, I said I was going to do 4 years and get out, didn't set myself up. But ultimately, I realized I was already doing what I love doing. I get to teach, coach, and mentor every day. I am part of a winning team every day. One of the questions you asked us tonight was, who are some leaders that were big influences? I tell you, it's all the soldiers, because I serve for the soldiers and for the team. They're the ones who make me get up every morning for the last 25 years and enjoy what I do. Make me want to go to PT and see them out there every day. Right now I love Mondays because I get to see our new trainees every Monday and say hello and welcome them to Fort Lee. So to me, that's what it's about, is being part of the team. And it's allowed so many other opportunities over my career that I probably wouldn't have had, just going out and coaching a D1 softball team. I've got to impact so many people's lives, stay in touch. I just saw a lieutenant today who's here for the career course, who was, an E5, E4 for me a few years back, and just sharing those stories. And I would tell you, I fought to go my last assignment as an ROTC PMS, which is pretty untypical of a lieutenant colonel promotable. But I did that because I wanted to give back to the program that had given me so much. And it was important for me to do that. And so I had a lot of opportunities there. But over the years, General Gainey, never worked for you directly, but I saw you from a distance, and I got to watch you lead. You and General Halstead, I was in the C-Flix C4 maintenance back in the day. And so I got to watch from a distance. When you were at Transcom, I got to see that. So there's a lot of people over time. Colonel Ev Torres, she was a big influencer, and I still stay in contact with her today. So I know there's so many people that's had an impact on my life, in my career, in the Army and outside of the Army. And I think that's what it's about. But ultimately, it's the team, and being part of the winning team is why I'm here today. So I just thanks for this opportunity to share my story, and to continue to be part of the team.
Thank you so much, Colonel Rieke. Toni, sister in arms. So I will tell you, want to talk about motivation, talking about and what caused you to stay in. That's some of the resounding theme that you'll hear the majority of the general officers that we've had on the line talking about. They didn't know they were going to break barriers. They didn't know they were going to come in. They didn't know what they didn't know. And then they got in, they found out more about themselves than really about the Army. They found out the strength that they had, and you found out the talent and the strength that you had. But it is truly a team effort. We always talk about it takes a village. Well, we're our village, and we're the ones that keep us going. So thank you so much, Colonel Rieke, for giving us that message. And we're going to have some time to ask and answer questions for you later on this afternoon. And so now we're going to go to Colonel Karin Watson, our garrison commander, who has a huge challenge on her shoulders, just being able to take care of all of us, making sure we're living good. And I'm so happy that she has her battle buddy here, Command Sergeant Major Tamisha Love is on the line as well. And so just to understand, you've got a female colonel, you have a female command sergeant major that are at the helm of the garrison here, making things happen for all of us, and they're doing a phenomenal job. So I just wanted to bring that up in case you wanted to put her on the spot, Karin. If you want to throw Tamisha in here and put her on the spot, it's on you. I'm not going to encourage it, put her on the spot. But hey, Karin, take it away. It's all yours.
All right, can you see me and hear me, Dia? Okay. Hey, again, like Toni said, really appreciate this opportunity. It's really humbling to be a part of, the group of leaders that we have on Fort Lee. Just amazing. But also, the amazing leaders who are in this Zoom session. Just looking at all, everyone that's a participant, it's just really, really humbling. I joined the Army. I was just like Colonel Rieke, it was something I was always interested in. Maybe not quite as young as 3 years old, but certainly about 11 or 12 years old. I remember being in, I want to say it was about the 7th or 8th grade. I was sitting outside the middle school, waiting for school to start. And I saw an airborne operation. I saw a drop. I didn't know what it was back then, but I knew it was a military aircraft, and I saw folks jumping out of a plane, and I was hooked. And I said, hey, that's what I want to do. And I was also part of, one of those families some of you guys might be familiar with, where, once you graduate from high school, you've got two choices, right? You're either going to go off to college, or you're going to find a job or enlist in the military. And I was only 16 when I graduated from high school, so there was no way in hell I was going to be able to enlist in the military. I had asked every military recruiter that called me if there was some kind of waiver that my grandfather could sign, and there was none. Luckily, I was able to get a scholarship at the ROTC, in the ROTC program at the University of Guam, which is what I consider home. And it's gone from there. So I mean, I am literally living my dream. You know, initially I wanted to, I will tell you that, you know, I went in and I was, you know, that young Lieutenant Bullock, and I said, hey, you know, again, not knowing everything, I said, I can do 20 years and be a general officer, because I thought after 20, that's when you make general officer, right? But, you know, we all have our ups and downs. My first assignment was not great, and I wanted to get out after that. You know, I started my family early in my career. I'm dual military. You've got the deployments that come in and kick in, and you know, you get faced with those decisions about balancing your family and your career. So there have been those challenges, but thankfully I've always had great leaders, both officers and NCOs. You know, my husband has been really supportive. I've had extended family members that have been super supportive, and all of that combined together have really enabled me to get to where I am today. And so, you know, and just kind of thinking about what motivates me to continue to stay in. Well, it's easy, because again, I'm living the dream. I mean, I'm obviously thinking about, I'm getting to a point, I'm getting old. Let's just put it that way. Let's be upfront. I'm getting old. So I've got to start thinking about what's phase 2. And so you start asking yourself about retirement, but truly and honestly, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But there's also, you know, the thing that you don't realize when you were younger that you know now, is the real meaning behind your service. You know, your service to your country and to the people that you serve with. It runs really deep. And that's the reason that you stay in, you know, that brotherhood and that sisterhood, not to mention, you know, being a mom, and just kind of wanting to continue to be that role model for your children, you know, being that model of strength for them, and just wanting them to make them proud of you. You know, my son, for example, is he's about to commission as an armor officer from West Point this summer. So, you know, it's a family. It's starting to become a family tradition. But I'm, you know, there's a part of me that thinks that maybe, you know, I've been able to inspire him in some way. That you know, his service has, you know, that I've motivated him to continue to serve. And then as far as, you know, someone that might have inspired me, well, I'll tell you, you know, I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. My parents were divorced. And so my grandfather raised me. And he was one of those that back in the Philippines helped his siblings when the war kicked off. And he was one of the few that had a college education. And he worked hard to provide for his brothers and sisters. And everything he did up till the day he died was to provide and support. And he would give you the shirt off his back. And so he took care of his daughter's children, you know, and a very hardworking man. You know, and I serve and I continue to do what I do because I just want to make him proud. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. And I just, you know, it's killing me right now as I just think about him. But, you know, and the same thing with what Colonel Rieke said, you know, it's the soldiers that motivate me, seeing them every day. You know, every interaction, you know, you don't always have positive ones. They're not always good. Sometimes you've got to give an Article 15, you know, sometimes there's a negative counseling, you know, and sometimes you've got bad soldiers or they do bad things. But you do have an impact on them, and there is that relationship that you have with them, right? And those things just they just motivate you, just seeing them and being able to help them out in any way, that's motivating. And so, you know, that's why I continue to do what I do. I mean, you guys inspire me, the soldiers inspire me, everybody in this Zoom session inspires me. And I look forward to continue to be inspired by all of you. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Dia.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Karen. And look, I wore waterproof mascara, so don't have me up here crying. No, look, I think you touched everybody and we all feel the same and feel that love. And so I think we probably all have our same stories of something that touched us the same way. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing that. All right, we have the awesome Colonel Fredericka Harris. Would love to present some great stuff to us, Frederick. Fred, you just take it away, girl.
Hey, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you. Just as Karin and Toni mentioned, it is an absolute humbling experience, one, to be in the midst of such great women. And I do not take this lightly because there are so many that could have been selected or chosen to be a part of this forum. So I truly thank you so very much for the opportunity to share with the team. Then, of course, as I listened and then I kind of scanned through the attendees, there's just so many, especially Toni and I were classmates at Eisenhower. We played on the softball team too, to kill some time at Eisenhower while we were there. Karin had the opportunity to finally meet her and then serve with her during OAW, doing the Operation Afghan Welcome when it was at Fort Lee. Then, of course, Dia, and of course, we have met so many years ago, and I can't even remember when we met, but we have kept in contact throughout the years. But I truly thank you guys so very much, and I really do wish nothing but the best for each and every one of you guys. But just as Dia mentioned with regard to some of the questions that she asked that we will present to you guys today, the why. That why do we serve? But aside from my family, aside from my mother and my father, really more my mother and my grandmother, because of course I am a product of my parents did separate when I was in elementary school, but nonetheless, because when you have that praying grandmother, it really helps to change things for you, and it's because of them and their foundation. It helped me as an individual throughout my life. And of course, aside from my children, again, just as Karin mentioned, it is a family affair because my son is a captain who is now a company commander who is commanding at Fort Hood in a maintenance company. And of course, my daughter will begin her internship with the Department of the Army. So it is a family affair. And it is my hope and my trust and my belief that it is something that I have done throughout my military career that has encouraged them to want to be a part of this great institution that we all are a part of, that we love so dearly and that we appreciate. But it's, get into the why I joined. I spent a year and a half in college. Of course, I was just going just to go. I just was sick of school. Because, that was just a thing back home in New Orleans, Louisiana. That, hey, you have to do something. So in doing something, went to school. So a year and a half, I was just tired of it. Working at McDonald's, became a shift manager. I thought I was just doing great things, being a switch shift manager. But just one day, I just drove by the recruiting station. And I just happened to meet a female. My first encounter with the Army was a female recruiter. And I can't recall her name, but I can see her face so vividly. Whereby she said, I walked in and I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something. I just want to make a difference. And I know I don't want to be in the same predicament my mom is in, neither my grandmother, but I want to just do something. So she said, okay, well, let's try the reserves. If you're not really fully committed, let's just try the reserves. Then if you like it, then once you return for after a year, then we'll put you on active duty. So I enlisted as a PV2. As a 76 Victor. Notice I said 76. Now there's no such thing as a 76 of anything. It's now 92 Alphas or 92 Yankees. But as a material handler specialist is what I joined some years ago. I'm not gonna tell you how old, I'll let you figure that out. But I've been on this journey more than 25 years. But after going to, entering into basic training, I still was unsure as to whether or not I was going to be a part of this great institution. But the very first day, basic training for McCullough, Alabama, they were throwing our bags off the bus, yelling and screaming. And I just looked out the window. I said, you know what? I have found my niche. I think I can encourage people to believe in themselves and to bring out the best of them, making them think that I cannot do it, but with the encouragement that I can provide, they will eventually believe that they can do it. So that it was at that moment when I knew, hey, the Army is for me. And I have committed myself to say, you know what, in spite of whatever may happen, I think this is the job and the journey that I've been designed just to do. And of course, being in basic training, it wasn't the best. I've never fired a weapon in my life before I entered basic training. So thus, having gone from being one of the top soldiers within my company, which was Bravo Company, to someone who couldn't qualify with their weapon that had to now be recycled. So it was very hard. It was very tough. It was my very first time encountering failure. But eventually I thought it was a failure, but it wasn't a failure. It was just a setback. Just as sometimes we say in church, it's just a setback or a setup for something great to happen, but didn't really quite understand it back then. So I ran away from my company and I went back. I was recycled to Charlie, but I ran away from Charlie and I went back to Bravo Company. And I was sharing with some of my friends, hey, I can't do it. Private Segura and Private Montgomery, I was crying. I told them, I just can't do this anymore because I can't do it. But my drill sergeant Moten, he found me in the barracks, and he went from yelling and screaming to now telling me to come in his office, and now turn into a father figure and encouraging me that yes, you can. So it's just a setback. It doesn't matter. You go back to that company and you prove that you belong, because eventually you'll get it. All you have to do is just practice, develop those habits, those things that you need to do in order to be the best version of yourself. So it was at that moment I dried my tears and I went back to Charlie Company, and I did just that. And so it was just a setback for a setup for something great. So that was just one of the things that just kind of catapulted me to say, hey, Fred, yes, you can. Just keep going. So now having served as a private, made it all the way to staff sergeant. I changed my MOSs a couple times, and then I ended up being a 76th Yankee, which was a supply sergeant. So, again, continued to serve as a staff sergeant, supply sergeant. So just with our other the young lady just made mention. So I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be more impactful, not to take anything away from our non-commissioned officers because they are just absolutely phenomenal. But I wanted to take it to the next level because as an officer, you write policies, you really affect change. You want to be the one that really change how people are treated. You want to change how we think about things. You want to help to change how we kind of view things. And that's just what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be one of those individuals along with the rest of the team to just to be a difference and just to make the change that we want to see in our organization. So that's the reason why I chose to be a commissioned officer and continues to be on this journey. And the why I continue to stay because of the people that we have encountered over our military careers. And it's just it's so many, not that we're going to name drop some of the individuals that we may call out or some that I'm going to call out. But it's because of having the opportunity, and the Army is all about opportunities, having the opportunity to serve with just some absolutely phenomenal leaders that helped to shape my entire military career. And I'm so very grateful and so humble for the opportunity to be exposed to them. First encounter as a second lieutenant was Betty Washington. I don't know if anybody knows Betty Washington, but she is a force to be reckoned with. And she was the very first female lieutenant colonel that I met at Fort Hood, Texas. I walked past her, I gave her the greeting of the day, and she waited till I had to be about 50 feet before she yelled me back and said, "Hey, Lieutenant, are you gonna let this opportunity pass you by? How many of us do you see?" I said, "Ma'am, you're actually the first female that I've ever seen a lieutenant colonel." And she said, "Well, from this point on, don't allow the opportunity to pass you by. Engage me, introduce yourself to me, and let me know where you work. because the road that you're traveling is a road that I've already traveled. So don't be afraid to engage. So that was one of the things that she taught me early on. And my company commander, Captain Bertulis, who is now Colonel Bertulis, he taught me that despite your failures or your mishaps, it's okay to fail at something. However, identify how you failed and what are you going to do to improve upon it. So, hey, keep rehearsing it. That's why we rehearse, so that you can perfect your skill set, so that you can gain those reps and sets and be better at it. So that's what he taught me along the way. Then I ran into a Command Sergeant Major Ferris, who was a 64 Corsair group support group, Command Sergeant Major, the very first female Sergeant Major that I ever encountered. We were the same stature. She was short. She said, hey, if you want to run with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch. You just can't sit on it and just watch the parade go by. You've got to get up and do something about it. So she taught me that. And then, of course, I ran into, then it was Brigadier General Jeanette K. Edmonds. I was her assistant SGS. And one day I just served as her backup aide when the aide was on leave. And, we were at 3 Corps. And then we were just talking. Of course, she would run you in the ground in the morning for PT. But it was just one day she had asked, what do you want to do in the military when you grow up? I said, well, ma'am, I want your job. I didn't quite know what that meant, what I really was meaning when I said it. But she was the very first female general officer that I'd ever met. And the way that she handled herself was just absolutely phenomenal. And it was just something just to be reckoned with. And then my first sergeant in OIF 1 as a company commander, First Sergeant Frank McQueen, he just taught me how to remain calm in the saddle. Regardless as to what's going on around you, just stay calm. Just stay calm, man. It's okay. If you're rattled, then that means the soldiers are going to get rattled. And then there's no calm in the midst of the storm. So just learn how to stay calm in spite of the chaos that may be going on around you. Michelle Hammond, Colonel Michelle Hammond, retired. She was the very first female colonel that I've ever worked for, the very first and only one that has ever counseled me in writing, the one that has counseled me in writing, not only the initial counseling, but also my quarterly counselings. She identified those things that, hey, this is what you need to do to better yourself. This is what you're doing well, and this is what you need to do to improve your own foxhole. Lieutenant General Weiss, who was the CASCOM CG at the time, and he taught me how to empower people to bring out the best in people. And that's just one of the things that I've learned. And of course, my Command Sergeant Major Rachel Terrell, who's on the line, my battle buddy for the brigade. We are the first female brigade command team for the 406 AFSB. My Sergeant Major just teaches me relentlessly. One, we can, as females, we can coexist in the same space and to encourage each other to be the best version of ourselves. And of course, it's Colonel Latanya Jordan, who is absolutely my best friend that I made when we were at OBC. And we continue to be on this journey together. So she is the 5th Recruiting Brigade Commander right now. And she is just the epitome of a leader, one that even I want to emulate. She is the best of the best as well. And just want to give her a shout out throughout that. And I'll quickly just wrap this thing up as well. But and also, again, getting back to the why of it all. Because we just love, me personally, I just love just to share, anybody that'll listen to me, encouraging people, you can do it, even, if you just try. Don't stop. People always say closed mouths doesn't get fed. So have the willingness, one, to be taught, have the willingness to learn, have the willingness to listen. And that's what it's all about, to making you better, so that we can build a bench. So when we do take off this uniform, just as General Gainey has done up until this point, that we know that this institution that we so love and we cherish so dearly, it will be left in good hands. So that's all I want to leave you guys with. But again, dear, thank you guys so very much for giving us this platform to share our stories, because there are so many stories to be told. but the one story that we will continue to tell, that we are here for each other because we are better together. That's all that I have, over.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Fred. That was amazing. And all three of you are amazing. And so I'm just humbled that you accepted my invitation on behalf of the entire FMMP board of directors, that directors executive board. We just know that what you have to share with others impacts us all. And so I almost don't even want to say anything, but you know what, since I did put myself on there as number 4, I'm going to talk about a little. So some of you may already know my story, and I say my because it took me years to stop saying we, us. I'm a twin. So for those of you that don't know me and have never met me, I am Colonel Prichard-Brown, twin sister of Lieutenant Colonel Clydea Prichard-Allen. And I am so humbled and honored to have my battle buddy for life as my twin sister. But when we talk about, and I asked them to ask the questions of why did you join? And so she's on right now. I always have my battle buddy right there with me. Why did I join the Army / why did we join the Army? And so we were raised with a single mom. And we graduated high school at 16 years old. Most people think, oh my God, you guys must have been brainiacs. No, by no means were we brainiacs. We were average students, in my opinion. But we had a single mom that said, you will not get pregnant. You will not get in trouble. You will go to school year round, because in those days, summer school was free. So my mom had free babysitting at the school because she had teachers that were out there making sure we were staying out of trouble. So we ended up going to summer school every year, and it ended up allowing us to graduate a year early. So graduating, we went straight to college because she was going to keep us in education. She was doing this as a single mom. So when I tell people my first role model and my first shero was my mom, and my sister says the same thing, it was because she showed us what it was to persevere through. Don't let your circumstances determine who you are. You look at those circumstances and determine how you can be better. And she always wanted us to be better. And so when we say why we joined the Army, we went through college, 3 years of college, but because my mom was single and we were working 2 and 3 jobs trying to just stay in college, we ended up saying, there's got to be another way. And my sister found the recruiting first in the military. So she saw an Army commercial first, decided to join the Army, enlisting in the military. And then I decided to join a year after her. So enlisting first. So she went reserve. Then I came in active duty following her footsteps. In 1991 is when I enlisted. She enlisted in 89. So for 3 years and 8 months, I was an enlisted soldier, went from PFC because I had 3 years of college on up to sergeant promotable. And I actually had 2 packets. I had a drill sergeant packet and I had a green to gold packet. And I said, I'm sorry, that green to gold. I said drill sergeant and a green to gold pack. And I said, whichever one comes back first is the one I'm supposed to do. Clearly, we see what happened. The green to gold packet got selected and I went in the military. And the thing about going in the military was I only went into the military to finish college. It wasn't to serve my country, even matter of fact, in basic training, Fred talks about basic training. I was in basic training and my drill sergeants, they had us all lined up and they asked us, why did you join the Army? And everybody down the line was to serve my country, drill sergeant, serve my country. Well, they got to me and I said, to finish college, drill sergeant. And that got everybody to come around and yell at me about, what do you mean to finish college? Drill sergeant, I came in the Army to finish college and I really only wanted to do 4 years. Well, clearly, if you do the math right, we're in 2022 now. So we just passed my 30-year anniversary of being in the military because I fell in love with the Army. I fell in love with the camaraderie. Now, I also fell in love with the challenge of people thinking I couldn't do something because they're, back in the 90s, and I'm talking back in the 90s, like I'm so much more mature than the great women that are sitting in here on the line who became my role models. But in the military back then, you didn't see a number of us, which is why I wanted to make this theme about the colonels that are on board such a significant message for the evening. But going through the military, I decided I wanted to continue going. I was even challenged to go to airborne school. Someone said I couldn't do it. That was enough challenge for me because I started, craving when someone tells me I can't do something, proving to them that I could. And so why did I join the Army? To finish college, but why did I stay in the Army? Is to start proving to myself that I had what it took to continue to start growing and leading, and not only leading, building a network of people. So the PFC in me and the sergeant in me, I channel all the time. As a matter of fact, my sergeant major who's on the line, he always laughs when I talk about, hey, I channel my inner PFC Prichard and my inner Sergeant Prichard-Brown, because I am now in a position to where I can impact the life of PFC Prichard or Sergeant Prichard-Brown. And so I look at that and say, what can I do on a daily basis to impact and help that soldier that probably would never have a voice had there not have been a leader to come down and ask those questions. And so I say that because to me, the influences that I had, that's what they did to me. So the Jan Edmonds, the Lieutenant General Gaines, who have been my military mom for all my entire officer career for sure. I knew Betty Washington when, and for anybody that knows Betty Washington, she used to walk around with a nice bright red lipstick. And it was the first thing that I remembered. It was like, well, she can wear lipstick. I can wear lipstick too. And so I could be a woman. I still felt it's okay. I chose to be what I wanted to be. And I applaud any woman and man who wants to be who they are and a soldier at the same time. And so I bring those up because the purpose of me staying in was because every time I helped a soldier, it became like a drug. It became, no matter what challenges I'm going through, the value and the feeling of helping that one soldier who looks back at you and says, thank you for just what you did with my family or for my family. That's what makes it all worth it. And so the reason I wanted to pick this theme for this month is not to just acknowledge the colonels and the lieutenant colonel promotables, but I have to acknowledge all the lieutenant colonels, let's say, that didn't make it, all the majors that didn't make it, all of them who have strived to do their best. We have to get to the next level as colonels and generals so that we can then bring up the next generation. Because for some reason you didn't make it, I will tell you, there's a culture we still have to change. My own twin sister, and I'll let her later on talk about some of where she's been, but I almost didn't enjoy being a colonel because my twin sister wasn't a colonel with me. And that was because she came up against a force that did not allow her to be the great leader that she was, because that person was stuck in that old culture of allowing the men in his environment to excel because she was a female. And he didn't want her to excel. He wanted his battle buddies to excel. And so, but the fact that she has still has the same passion and drive allows me every day to say, it's okay to be where I am, because even though she's not with me, she still has the perseverance and the drive to keep going. And so I want to give you all 5 P's, the 5 P's that I got from General Dingle, one of my main mentors. And this is what I think everyone in here either has already or just needs to hear so that they can get it. And so you'll understand why it's important for all of us to make it to the next rank, if not do what we can at our current rank, because it's about changing that culture. And so I'll start out with the first thing. All of us on here, if we're serving those that came before us, the giants that we stand on the shoulders of, they had to have that passion. The first P is that passion that you have to have for what you do every day, because there are some days you get off work and I come home sometimes myself and I will just bury my head in my husband's chest. And I will wonder, what did I do wrong today? Why is somebody angry at me? You know what? And after I cry it out, and I normally call my sister and my mom and they talk me off the ledge and they're like, all right, you can do this, girl. And they pretty much virtually slap me around and say, snap out of it. I snap out of it. I remember all the women that came before me and I say, you know what? If they can do it, then I can do it too. So I go in that next day with a big old bright smile and say, all right, what can we do today? What's new today? The next one is precision. You have to know what you need to do in your profession. Why? Because people are going to challenge you every day on your knowledge. I still, after being in command a year and a half, have people challenge what I know as a commander. And I tell some people that, look, it has nothing to do with I'm an ordnance officer, because I'm not, but I'm an ordnance brigade commander. But the point is I'm a leader. And that's what they need me to be. Not so much the best ordnance officer in the United States Army. It's you need me to lead all the ordnance people that are out there trying to be the best ordnance soldiers that they can be. Well, that's about precision and understanding what I need to do, what my lane is, what my command sergeant major's lane is, and understanding what our profession is. And that's what you all have to know. Your precision is, what do you do and what are your specialties? And you have to avoid those personal landmines that are out there that can cause you to end your own career or cause you to have a negative reputation. And so the third one is persistence. I can guarantee you everyone on this call, and definitely the speakers and definitely me, has thought about, I'm done, throw my hands up. I can't do this anymore. If I go in there one more time, somebody tells me I can't, I won't, I shouldn't. What are you doing? Why didn't you stay in your place? And I've heard them all, whether I was a Black female or a female, or just the fact that I didn't belong in the group that I was in. I've had a number of people that would tell me, well, why don't you just go do this? So my persistence helped me to overcome people tell me what I couldn't do. Here again, I went to airborne school because somebody said I couldn't do it. Now, a funny story about that is, real short story is, I went to airborne school and I was on my last jump coming off the jump zone. And guess who's walking up to me, wanting to pin his wings on my chest? The person who used to tell me all the time that I wouldn't understand what it meant to be airborne because I'd probably never do it. And I couldn't understand why he was there. Why are you here? Of course, I was in tears by now because I was so mad. I was ready to look him. I went so I could have my airborne wings and track him down one day and find him and be like, now what? And he says, look, I already knew you had it in you. And I just couldn't understand why he did that. Why would you tell me every day I couldn't do something? He said, because if I told you couldn't do it, I had learned you enough to know that you would do it. In just to show me that you had the ability. And so most of the time we wake up, when somebody tells us what we can't do, we can easily talk ourselves out of, oh, you're right. Or we can let them influence our decisions to continue on. What we have to do is not let them talk us out of what we know we are meant for. And I believe everyone on here, and even those that aren't on here, are meant for greatness. You just have to choose what you want to be great at and then commit to it. If you don't commit to it and be persistent in it, then you won't attain it. But who do you have to blame for that? All right. And then the next one, the perseverance. You have to persevere. You have to not quit. I know everyone on here has probably talked to themselves and said, I'm done. So I go back into, my twin sister had to keep me in the military. I will tell you, there's another colonel right now, he's retired, Colonel Ken Walker, who had to keep, Kim Williams, who had to keep me in the military because I was done. I was going through a divorce. I was going to be a single parent. I was like, you know what? If I get out of the military, maybe my husband will stay with me. Oh, well, that wasn't going to be the answer. If I get out of the Army, maybe I won't have to put up with this stress. But I love the Army. And so all I would have done is, if I had gotten out of the Army, I would have been resentful to a lot of people, especially my ex-husband. And notice, my ex-husband, we ended up getting divorced anyway. So was that the reason we got divorced? Well, no, we had our own issues anyway. And so what I did not do is I didn't quit at what I love doing, because when you quit at what you love doing, you now decide you will be, whatever you are going to feel about that decision, you can either regret it, you'll end up resenting other people for it, or you'll just be angry and bitter. So you have to not allow others to make you quit something that you love. You don't want to quit anyway. If you choose to change paths, that's a different story. For those that may be considering retirement, if you choose to change paths, then that's a change of a path. And it's not because you weren't worthy. It's because that wasn't meant for you at that time. So my sister has to encourage me, because like I said, I'm not even happy about my colonel sometimes because my sister wasn't there. But she encourages me more when she says, hey, God has a plan for me. If I'm not a lieutenant colonel now, that just means I'm gonna go put on my urban camouflage and go be a GS-15 with you. And matter of fact, I'll get to work in your office or wherever you go, however far God chooses to put me. And I believe everyone on here is going to go to wherever they're supposed to be. If I'm chosen to go to the next level, my goal is not to just say I have a star. My goal is to say, what can I do with that star to help the next generation? That's my goal. And so for everyone on here that's talking as a leader, that's your goal too, I would hope. How can you influence the next generation? And then finally, the last one is, you have to practice perfection. Practicing perfection is, how do you practice at your profession? So we're stewards of our profession. And so with my life, having been a logistics officer, logistics comes with so many things. I'm a transporter by blood. I was in 88 November when I enlisted in the military. All the Mikes hated us because November's coordinate. We get to sit in the room. We were learning how to scan things. We were scanning people, whereas Mikes, 88 Mikes were going out and driving in the field. I was very happy to be in a computer room. But I learned that it wasn't just about what my craft was then. It's, where am I going to go as a leader next? And so I chose to go green to gold here again to finish college. And I finished college being able to be the first of a few things. So I'll list off one of the things I told them to look at is when Women's History Month, where did we make history? We're still writing our own history. So I became the very first female and African-American. Well, I can't say African-American. I became the first female and entire minority cadet battalion commander of my school of IUPUI. So I'm just going to make a joke of it, but I look like Obama on the president's chart. There was no other one before me. All right. And so then the next feat, I go into the military. I became the first female. First African-American female, but the second female to command my battalion. And here again, there's only one female, and she was like 4 or 5 commanders before me. And then I come in. And so having been the first African-American female to command the battalion that I'm in, I'm the very first African-American female to command the brigade that I'm in. And so those are some firsts. I will also throw out the very first, my twin sister and I, when we did the research, we were the very first African-American siblings, battalion commanders at the same time. So my sister and I were 1 year off, but we commanded 1 year together at the same time. So we're still writing our history. I don't know what else I'm going to be first at. And I ask you all, what are you first at? Be okay with acknowledging what you've done to break a barrier. What we don't want to do is be the last. So I will just say in IUPUI, from what I researched recently, I was the last. I was the first and I was the last. I'll have to go back and check and see if anything else has changed. But, you know, our goal is when we break a barrier, we break the glass ceiling, the key is to keep it open. So many women have come before us. The ones that are on the line tonight, the ones that didn't get a chance to make it, have come before us to break barriers. It's our job, it's our duty to keep the next generations coming up behind us. People ask me why I formed the FMMP. It's because it's not for me. It's to say, what can I give back? Just like Fredericka said, what can we give the next generation? This is all free knowledge. These are free answers to the questions. I can call General Gainey, I can call General Evans, I can call General Bingham and say, ma'am, how'd you do it? You know, not necessarily trying to figure out exactly how you do it, but I'm sure whatever you have to give me, I can use in my own life. And so those are the thoughts behind how we continue to be passionate, persistent, persevere through what we can do in practicing our profession, at understanding what we want to do, but not for us, it's how we impact the next generation. As you all know, back in a while back, the Army made us put quotes up under our signature blocks. Well, I didn't want to use anybody else's quote. I wanted to use my own quote. And so my quote has always been, what we do for others dies with us. I'm sorry, what we do for ourselves dies with us, but what we do for others lives on as our legacy. So I have a legacy of 2 little ones. I say little ones. I have a 22-year-old son who I'm still trying to get over the fact that he wants to go in the Navy instead of the Army, but I'm okay with it. I still love him. He wants to do the Navy. I don't care what he does, as long as he's successful and he knows his mom supports him. And then I have my little mini me, my daughter, she's 15. She's a sophomore in high school, soon to be a junior, and she is in JROTC. Now, you want to talk about avoid ROTC to the fullest. She did not want to do JROTC, and I said, you're going to do it. This is one time your mom's going to make you do something. And now she's in it, and now she's made to assistant squad leader, even as a sophomore. And there's normally juniors and seniors that are squad leaders and in charge of their people. Well, they pushed her up because of the dedication she has, of the go figure, she happens to have somebody at home she can practice with. So then she goes out to school and knocks it out the ballpark when she's doing cadence and she's marching them. And they're like, wait, where did that voice come from? Well, we practice her command voice at home. I was like, that little teeny weeny mouse voice is not going to work. And so I say all of that to say it's my family that I do this for, but it's my family that's my legacy. Even if they choose not to go in the military, the point is they have a role model at home that they can look back at and say, you know what? If no one else, I know my mom and my dad love me. I know my family is together in everything that we do. And I have a strong support system where a mom can show you can be out there and be successful. Of course, my son is the most respectful person you'll ever meet to women. Well, he had to learn that at home, how to respect a woman. You know, so many of our men can go out there and learn the wrong way. Well, we taught them at home. And so the village that helps raise my kids, we make sure you understand dignity and respect, inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion is you are worthy. Zaria and Zion, my children. You're worthy of it. So now go out and get it. And oh, by the way, if anybody ever bothers you, come home, you tell your mama so I can go out and handle some business. That's that with a smile. So team, thank you so much for listening to my story. Here again, I wouldn't be here without the giants that are on this screen tonight, as well as those that are already out in making a difference, even in their urban camouflage, which is really civilian clothes. You all do know it's urban camouflage because they're still always going to serve. They're just choosing a different environment to serve in. They're just not having to wake up early in the morning and do the same PT that we have to do. The good thing is they're still willing and passionate to be able to do it. So I thank you for listening to my little story. And hopefully I see, wow, we have 30 things in the chat room. Hopefully those are some questions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute before we get into the question and answer period. And I'm going to turn it over to I see two of my VIPs that I definitely always want to call out. So they should always know, be ready, because I'm going to call you out. But I'm going to start with Jan Edmonds, one of my sheroes that I was in Korea with. And then I'm gonna get to my military mom, General Gainey. And if I missed any other general officer, female general officers, or male general officers, please let me know. But ma'am, General Edmonds, would you mind coming on and giving your thoughts or a few things if you could? If you're still on, you are.
I'm here.
Hey.
First of all, I think this is a great forum. I told you that when I saw you at the Army Women's Foundation Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't really have anything to add beyond what the great stories have been provided already. I do want to say hi to Fred, since I was surprised to see her on here today. But, this whole idea of mentorship, mentors don't do things for you. They help you see the way. They help you find the way. Open doors, of course, but the whole idea of this group where you can collectively mentor each other. It's not necessarily Colonel Prichard-Brown mentoring Sergeant or Captain so-and-so. You mentor each other up and down the chain and you learn from each other. And the fact that you have this group where people can be honest and ask honest questions with no sense of being made to feel little because of your question. I think it's an awesome forum. I think it's great what you're doing. And I think it's great that everybody takes the time, because I know you all are busy. I see your kids. I see pictures of your kids. I know some of you are having your chow right now, and you're making the time to be on. So I think it's wonderful. It's awesome. And I really enjoy listening to the stories and seeing some people that I know from my not so urban camouflage days.
Awesome, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And to my military mom, General Gainey, would you please add some thoughts, please?
I can't, when I listen to what you all describe, it's just so rewarding, for people like, Sergeant Major Cynthia Prichard, Jan, myself, Gwen Bingham, just what you ladies are doing, and gentlemen. And it just encourages me to see what the future is going to be. The most important thing is continue to learn, continue seeking out information. Never should you get to a point where you think you know it. Because what's important is constantly getting that professional competence. That's what's going to allow people to say, hey, I want to give her a chance because she always talks with expertise and doesn't give me a answer that is not either correct or says, I'm not sure, but I'll get it back to you. Your competence is going to be what's going to be the ability to allow you to continue on. And the only way to gain that competence is constantly ask questions, get information, and then share it with each other so that you can help mentor and coach others to be that exceptional professional. That's all. Thanks.
Ma'am, always wonderful to hear your thoughts, and both of you and anyone else on here. I'm going to open it up for a minute because I know I'm going to have Captain Estelle give us our VIP list so that they can also ask, because I think in Women's History Month, we need to hear from those who came before us. And I also want to open it up to our Sergeant Majors on the ground. I also want to open it up to Donna Brock, awesome woman who, just by the way, don't you all know, the 6888 just received this gold award. I will have a moment to talk about that. But the women's history piece of this is understanding that the women that are on this network right now are all history makers. You may not even know it, but you're a history maker just by getting up every day and going in and sitting at the table and having a voice. So thank you so much, ma'am. I'm going to have Captain Lee, can you give us the number of, no, that's right, Captain Estelle, can you give us more list of our VIPs on the line, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. So can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I have a total of 20, and please forgive me if I'm missing someone. But as far as our 06s are concerned, I have Colonel Prichard-Brown, Colonel Brown Slade. I'm going to say Lieutenant Colonel, but she's promotable, Jeffrey. Colonel Annette Gant, Colonel Waden, Colonel Fredericka Harris, Colonel Jennifer Karin, Colonel Lisa Lamb, Colonel Nora Flott, Colonel Yvonne Miller, Colonel Toni Rieke, Colonel Karin Watson, Colonel Christina, I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm probably going to butcher your name, but Benek, I'm sorry, Colonel Yolanda Harris, Colonel Valerie Johnson, Colonel Princess Autons. Yes. Autrice. Thank you, ma'am. I'm really gonna need help with this one. Colonel, it's Bidemi. So
Bedimi.
Bedimi.
Huh?
Yes,
We'll just leave it
ma'am.
at that. Don't worry about the rest.
Thank you so much.
My sister in arms.
Colonel
It's Antoinette
Saint.
Gant. It's Antoinette Gant in there. I wanted to make sure I put that in there, but go ahead, continue.
Yes, ma'am. Colonel Saint Amant, Colonel Brenda Meredith, and Colonel Sabrina Thwart, or I think I said that right. But that's a total of 20 so far. I just saw Colonel Jeffrey come back in, but if I'm missing anyone, if you please just raise your hand. We'd love to acknowledge you at this time.
Oh, and Colonel Nicole Vincent said, Colonel Saint Amant said Colonel Nicole Vincent is on the line. So ladies, thank you so much for joining in, but I also want to open it up to some of our male counterpart brothers in arms on here. I just got an email from Colonel Frazio Castro, who was my former brigade commander, and hopefully he doesn't mind me calling him out on the line. Are you able to come? Oh, and Colonel Yolanda Hines is on the line. But Fraz, are you on the line? Can you come out? I think you have two cadets in there with you. Is it two cadets or two captains? We're gonna unmute. Make sure I got him. Well, if you're not, you know what, throw your hand up if you're able to, and then we'll bring you in. But ladies and gentlemen, it is just a wonderful thing to have you all on here and talk through the various conversations of where we are. Colonel Michelle White is on. Again, if you are a Colonel 06 or Lieutenant Colonel promotable, put your name in the chat box. And again, this is not to take away from the Lieutenant Colonels, let's say, who did not get selected, or the majors who didn't get selected to the next one. It is to say, we are here with you. We're going to continue to carry the water to the next level for you, and we will represent and make sure that the next time someone is around and to be considered, they have an equal opportunity of being selected. I don't know the circumstances for each individual who did or did not get selected, but I know you have your own challenges, your trials and tribulations, and we will applaud you for just getting into the rank that you were able to get to. I'm going to open it up to my twin sister, Lieutenant Colonel Clydea Prichard Allen, because I know she has some great people on the line that dialed in tonight also. And so I thank her for just being my battle buddy and she is the Pentagon liaison for the FMMP. And so she's out there knocking down doors and talking to people and spreading the vision up there, along with CW5 Dixon Carter, Yolandria Dixon Carter, who is just a rock star. And then we also have some heavy hitters, Amy Kramer, and so many people that are on that are helping to drive this forward. And I thank all of you all for supporting it up there. So Delia, if you want to throw some few words in there, ma'am. Let me unmute you. Hold on a minute. Mari, unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, listen, I'm not going to take too much of your time. Thank you so much, Boo. Guys, some of you all know the story. My only thing that I share with you is to continue to remain passionate, as she mentioned. Don't let some of the circumstances that you have been faced with cause you to throw your hands up and say, I give up. Let it cause you to dig in deeper, because not only are you making a difference for yourself if you fight that challenge, but you'll make a difference for others that are coming behind you, because you'll let them know that you don't give up. You'll have an obstacle to go through. You'll have obstacles, and those that are, again, we're trying to work with the military to change this culture. And those obstacles are still going to be there. But what it does for you is it strengthens your confidence, it strengthens your faith, and it gives you an understanding of how important it is to be that example. Because we can always say, oh, my career was perfect. Well, it's not always going to be perfect. And as Dia mentioned, she went through some sacrifices. She went through some challenges. She was ready to throw her hands up. We've been there for each other. Well, just like we say here, this is a sisterhood. This is a brotherhood. And as she mentioned, it takes a village. It takes that person to take that extra step to say something to you, to encourage you. Will you be that extra person, or you be that extra one to step into that person's life to say, you can do this as well? And so I'm just as motivated, just as excited. I will tell you, I'm praying that there's going to be some vindication coming up soon, because we've had some things happening. But even if it did, God has us on a path, and the path here is to bring this community together. And this isn't just something that CASCOM, even though they started it, it's amazing that they've started this. And I thank God for Dia doing something like this, because everywhere we've been, we've tried to bring a team together. We've tried to bring the females together to say, hey, you are just as powerful. You are just as important, even more important in some cases, because you have a story to tell, just like this says, her story, not history. It's her story. And so it's her story that we're trying to write, and we're trying to make our future and this path that you all are on successful. We're trying to make it something that's impactful. And as you've seen this year, with all of these ladies and these females that are being selected in such amazing positions, breaking the glass ceiling, this is something that we want to continue on. So please tell all of your friends. I have a number of leaders here on, and they've got their friends on Facebook watching. And so I thank them for dialing in. But this doesn't stop here. This is just the beginning. And as Dia mentioned, and I'll close with this, this isn't something that is just going to be a Zoom meeting where we just can get together and chat. We're going to continue making a difference, and we're going to continue making it at the Army level, the OSD level, and probably the congressional levels, because that's where our goal is, to make sure that this is a program and make sure this is a forum that everyone recognizes, because it's long overdue. And so thank you all so much for joining in. Dia, thank you for giving me that time. You didn't have to give it to me, but I'm gonna take advantage of it if you need to. But guys, congratulations on all that you continue to do wearing this uniform. And for those who have stepped out of the uniform, have started their second career, thank you for your service. And thank you for continuing to push us to do better as we go each day in this uniform. So God bless you all.
Thank you. And I apologize. You all heard her call me by my name, Boo, because we are each other's boos. So that's our nickname. But I am honored to introduce you all to someone who I find not only refreshing to know that he's out there doing great and wonderful things for our communities, but he is doing great and wonderful things for this program, as well as just anyone that has the opportunity to just meet him. And he is the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army in California, San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But the CASA, Mark Benton, or Honorable Mark Benton, who's on the line. And sir, thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you wouldn't mind, say a few words to us. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are, and greetings from San Francisco. Colonel, thank you so much for putting this together, and I was so excited to hear about your program. And, you know, I really get excited about any help that I can do at any time. Thank you to your speakers, Colonel Rieke, Colonel Watson, Harris, and of course yourself and all your other wonderful speakers. And, you know, I love the fact that I see lieutenants and captains on here, because it's about reaching back out. And I, you know, sometimes even on the rock sessions, I hope to see more lieutenants, more cadets, and young captains, because you probably heard it as well, that individuals become a field grade officer and they're like, hey, I wish I'd reached out a lot earlier, in my career. So I'm great to see young lieutenants and captains on here just getting all the information. Want to put a shout out to an individual that's actually in my own backyard, Colonel Antoinette Gant, and I'm excited for her too. She's our first African-American female division commander in the Corps of Engineers. So we're excited. I got to give the shout out with Purview A&M on that end right there. But thank you so much. I'll wrap it up with, I love your phases about legacy. And, it's legacy and more is more than just memory. It's about impact. It's about that individual that you had an influence on that literally says, if it wasn't for that person, I wouldn't be here. That's when you have the legacy. So thank you so much for being the founder of a wonderful organization. And it's just the start of many, many opportunities to come. Thank you again for opening up for me to say hello and greetings and best wishes and luck to everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that. And again, to have you on the line and have so many people out there understand that your role is key in our community, because people don't realize civilian aid to the Secretary of the Army, he has the audience, and all of the CASAs who have the audience with the Secretary of the Army. My sister said it earlier, and the ladies on here have to realize, dare I say it, last year and this year are the year of the woman. I mean, we have our first female vice president. We have our first female Secretary of the Army, and the world is still turning. We have those that think that the world is going to end if we are at the helm. And I tell you, the world is still turning, and I think it's turning in the right direction, and we're changing our culture. And so that's what it's about. And so what I'm going to do is open it up for a few questions. I know I have Mari and Major Promotable Mari Lee, who is on the line, who's going to be able to come to us with a few questions that were in the chat room. Major Lee, can you come online and share your thoughts and share some of the questions that are out there?
Ma'am, there were no questions in the chat room.
Okay. Well, hopefully that means everybody was just mesmerized and everything was over.
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and
Oh,
a lot of
awesome.
happy people acknowledging the great contributions that you ladies have made and acknowledging the path that you guys continue to make for the rest of us.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm honored. And for those of you that are just joining us for the first time, if you are interested in starting your own chapter of FMMP, or if you're even interested in just starting a program that highlights where you can help women, please let us know. We have a FMMP starter kit. And so I will tell you, Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Jackson, Fort Bliss, Europe, and I think Lisa Lamb, is Lisa on the line, or Lynn Ray on the line? So we have chapters that have been established. We are now going to be working with the Cadet Command, where they have asked us to come out during the summer rotations to talk to cadets. Absolutely all over. We want to be there, and we had a great meeting with our cadet commander, Major General Johnny Davis, who is all for it, and we're so excited to bring this to them. We actually have a trip up to West Point coming up in April, early April, where they're having a women's conference, and I'm sharing this with you because we're also going to be helping them start their chapter of FMMP. So the point is, where can we go to where we can bring the women together to feel that they have a safe environment to talk to each other and their brothers, and have our male counterparts understand what's really happening. For those of you that know Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, the old book, you have to hear the dialogue, and it's an uncomfortable conversation at times, but it has to be had. If you don't have that conversation, you'll never root out the problems. And as a brigade, sitting brigade commander, and all these brigade commanders I know are working with every day, I can guarantee you we're dealing with making sure everyone in our population, male and female, are cared for. No sharp incidents, no suicides. We're trying to eradicate suicide, sharp, and also racism and extremism. And how do we do that? We have to work together. But by doing so, we have to get at some of the roots of the issues that are out there. So I am so honored to have you all here. We have a few opportunities right now to open it up. I'd like to have a few people, like, I know she doesn't expect me, but I love throwing people out there. without
May I
knowing it. So
please?
my sister in arms, Caprisa Brown Slade, who I always got confused with people, you would always confuse us because Brown Slade and Prichard-Brown, you know, we were here together. But Caprice, would you mind talking to us about where the Army is with diversity, equity, inclusion? Because I know you have a major role in making sure we're in the right direction, because she was here with the Army's listening session. So Pri, would you mind joining in and letting us know some things going on? Oh, Mari, you have to let Caprisa Brown Slade in. Got her? Let me see if I can unmute her. And let me see. Here we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go for it, Pri.
Can you see me?
I tell you.
No, we can't. But you have a
Okay, I don't
lovely
know.
name on the screen.
Okay, well, I don't know how to make that camera come on. But they say be smart in your equipment. I'm trying, but it's just not working today.
You know what? I just
Uh-oh.
asked to start your video. So there. I think you can click it.
Yes, ma'am. I think I just clicked it somewhere.
There you go.
Oh, yes. Hello. Okay, hey, ladies and gentlemen, hello. How are you? I am thankful to be a part of this wonderful, awesome opportunity. Couple things. So as the Army's Chief Diversity Officer, couple initiatives that we have going on. One, again, as we're working at the OSD level, I can say that the FMMP program is one of the mentorship programs that we are advocating for as we move forward with what the Army is doing right. We also have some of the, if you didn't know, 21st TSC is also starting a male mentorship program as well that Major General Smith and team is doing. And so it's evolving into bringing in, retaining that talent as we move forward with our Army. But just a couple of things I wanted to share with everyone. One of the things is as contributing to the conversation from tonight, one of the things that our agency is doing is pursuing a leadership model called the WHO model. And with this WHO model, there's 3 key questions that we're asking everyone, and it's from the lead to the led and vice versa. But these 3 questions for building those cohesive teams, and that's understanding who your people are, how do they show up, and then what do they have to offer? And the same I ask of you, if you be your authentic you, is who are you? How do you show up? And what do you have to offer? So those are some of the three questions that kind of assist us as we're moving forward with building the cohesive teams. So back in February, on 8th February, the Second Army released her 6 objectives. And of her 6 objectives, objectives 4, 5, and 6 deals within the people business, the people forum. And so what it is for the 4th objective is, establish that positive command climate and what that means. And a part of that is, as some of the initiatives the Army has in place at those battalion and brigade levels, for some of you up here had the opportunity to go through your BCAP process and your CCAP process, in which our talent management task force is currently the proponents of, but trying to get the best talent that's out there to lead the future as we modernize and move to that MBO next type of environment for the 21st century. So that's one of the way. In addition to that, we just released and I said we as the Army we just released our cohesive teams handbook that the People First Task Force published. In that is our WHO model as well, as you look at the sponsorship piece in figure 2.2-1 or 2-2. But again, it's just a means of, as you're bringing members into the team, of understanding who they are, what they bring to the table, so that as it leads into the 5th objective of identifying those harmful behaviors, it kind of carves out that now at the lowest level, and on, if you're looking at the operational level as well, across the staffs, right? How do I build those teams and understand what's happening with that individual and their families that can kind of cause them not to self-actualize and understand what those physiological needs that's keeping them up at night, or not allowing them to be their best of them or bring their best into the table. And then the last objective, which is again, retaining that talent, attaining and retaining the talent across an all volunteer force, to make sure that everyone understands that our Army is the best institution of all the services. Our Army is the best to join. And what are the influencers out as we're bringing American citizens to become soldiers or civilians who support, understanding that what we have to offer is amazing. What we bring to the table as a diverse force, and not just by the representation, but all the ethnic backgrounds, all the history, everything that you bring to the table, so that we can enhance what we have as an Army and enhance our lethality and be those disciplined, cohesive teams as we move forward is key. So I just want to share that with everyone. Here at our agency, our DASA E&I is Mr. Anselm Beach. He's in charge. He's the principal advisor to the SEC Army for all things equity and inclusion, and that also does include accessibility as well. So I just wanted to give that plug. I thank you. I appreciate you. Congratulations to everyone. And I hope you all stay safe, be blessed, and I'm here if you need me.
Thank you so much, Pri. And I will tell you all, that's why it's so important to get us in the right rooms, at the right tables, because those are the ones that are in there fighting for us, male and female. And so Colonel Brown Slate sits in the room and helps to shape where we go. And that is so important for us to understand why we have to have the right people in the room that want us to improve and excel and change the culture for the better. So I'm going to open it up. I got a text message from Major Lee. Major Lee, we have some questions in the chat room and someone had raised their hand.
Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Major Owens from the Garrison IG asked, what advice would you hand down to a new company commander on day one of their command?
Well, guess what? I get to come right back to our guest speakers for the evening. I'm going to start out with Colonel Rieke. How would you like to answer that question with your new company commander on that first day? We'll unmute you.
I think my advice would be you come in with competence and trust that we have set you up, us, and when I say we, that's us as leaders, right? And we have mentored you and we're going to coach you, but come in with confidence and caring, and that you're humble. And that will take a long way, because you're going to gain the trust of your formation, which again goes back to the team. So I think that's my initial advice there.
That's awesome. Karin, Colonel Watson.
Yeah, that's Toni or Colonel Rieke gave some great advice. I would also like to just add that let them know that that we have their back. There's a huge gap between a company commander and a battalion commander and a company commander and a brigade commander, right? And so I think we recognize that there might be some experience that's lacking, and that they might make some mistakes. But one, they've got their NCO battle buddy, right? That's what that first sergeant is for. I've got my my sergeant major, and I meant to do a shout out, and I was completely forgot. But to me, Sergeant Major Tamisha Love, and even before her, Command Sergeant Major James House, they were awesome battle buddies from the start. And every NCO battle buddy that I have had at every level of command has been that awesome partner for me at those levels of command. And so for that new company commander is to seek the advice of your battle buddy. They certainly have several more years of experience than you as a young company commander has. So take the time to listen to them, and just know that we know that you'll make mistakes, and just don't repeat them, right? Everyone is still going to go through somewhat of a learning phase. And I think battalion commanders and brigade commanders understand that. At battalion command, we also, at that level, you also still make mistakes. And hey, even at brigade command, we still make mistakes, whether you're, 1 day in or a year and a half in. Back to you, Dia.
No, that was a great answer, and I really appreciate it. You're absolutely right. We still trying to get it right all the way up. And whenever we stop making mistakes, then we might be in a coffin, because we're going to make mistakes. And so appreciate that. Fredericka, Colonel Harris.
Yes, ma'am. What I like to do is like to pitch it to my battle buddy who's on the line, Command Sergeant Major Terrell. to give her perspective on what a company commander should do on the first day on the job. Over.
That's awesome. Sergeant Major. Let me see if I can find you, Sergeant Major, and unmute, and unmute you. Mari, are you able to unmute her?
Ma'am, I asked her to unmute herself.
Okay, Sergeant Major, you got to unmute yourself now. Click on it. Okay, well, while we're waiting on her to unmute, I'll give my thoughts on it. So every one of you have already said some great, some thoughts, so I can't add to that. I echo what you said. I will add to the point of get details. The first story is never the whole story. Always try to research it. Inquiries are always great. An inquiry is not an investigation. An inquiry is just asking the questions that you need to ask, because you're going to hear stories. In the first report is normally the wrong report, or it's an aversion or an assumption of things that have happened. Dig deeper, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. You may be intimidated to ask a non-commissioned officer or another officer to give you some more details, but that's your role as the commander to go in and ask those questions. And so now I see Sergeant Major Terrell is off mute. Go ahead, Sergeant Major.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So my advice for a company commander is to first definitely give the first sergeant their intent. And, let that first sergeant, know and understand, what it is that they are expecting from them. Then, of course, my next thing would be for, that company commander to definitely understand what that battalion commander's intent is. And then, of course, to make sure that the formation is understanding. But that I think that's probably one of the best jobs in the Army is that, that company commander and that first sergeant relationship, because that is the last step actually where you have close contact with your soldiers. So, I always tell everybody, hey, enjoy it, because the further that you go up, you're kind of away from that soldier contact. So, I always just advise the first sergeants that, hey, I remember we were about to go on a run, and the first sergeants, we were, I think I was like maybe 6 months into being the first sergeant, and we were all in the middle of a bunch of battalion sergeant majors. And they were saying, man, like you guys don't understand, like you guys have the best jobs in the Army. And, the first sergeants, we were all kind of standing around like, what? Like, you guys are the sergeant majors. Like, you guys have the best jobs. Like, all you guys are pretty much doing is like barking orders to us. So, you guys have the best job. But I understand, and at the time I didn't understand it, but I understand what they were talking about, because they were pretty much saying that, hey, there are so many different layers, that you have as you go up through the ranks, between you and that soldier, the soldier contact. So as a first sergeant, you are still in direct contact with that soldier. And, as a sergeant major, you have the first sergeant, then you have the platoon sergeant, you got the squad leader, the team leader. So there's so many different layers as, when you become a sergeant major. So I get it now, but definitely, as a company commander, I would say to definitely build a good relationship with your first sergeant. Definitely put out your intent, what you want your first sergeant to focus on, so they're not just running around in a circle. And then also just, allowing your platoon leaders to understand their job as well. And of course, your company XO. So that's all I have, ma'am. I appreciate, this forum. I appreciate all the leaders that are on here, just being able to see, my battle buddy on here, Colonel Harris, of course, you and all the, the inspiration that you gave me over in Korea. I think you probably know what I was dealing with over there, and I didn't even know you. And I just went up to you. I heard you were promotable, and I just, gave you a shout out, and, you kind of pulled me to the side and kind of just talked to me. And, that left an impact on me where I was like, like, man, where did this colonel go that I met in Korea? So, just that moment of you being kind, that, took me through that tour. And then also, the follow-on tour that I had. So I just appreciate that. And, just Colonel Watson, her sergeant major, we were going through OAW, and, just seeing all these great leaders on the line. Mrs. Brock, I met her in PCC. We had our moments. So those stuck with me, and then all her emails that she sent me when I was at Fort Drum. So this is just really a powerful forum, and I'm so glad to just be a part of it. So, Colonel Harris, I mean, she's just totally awesome. And man, she's just awesome. And I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to be sitting up here crying. But I'm just excited for all of you all's future in this army. And the nation, they've got it right. The Army's got it right. And I'm just excited for you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Major. You're just wonderful. And believe me, we're always sisters no matter where we go. So anytime you see a hoodoo, just throw it up. All right. And I see, and it's 7:36, 1936 on my calendar and on my watch. Thank you so much. I'm going to let Caprisa, I'm gonna let you make a comment. I think we're going to close it out before the end of the night. But since you had your hand up, I want you to, and I think I might have had one or two other hands up.
Yes,
Sergeant Major
ma'am.
Grant. But go ahead, Pri.
Okay, so I'll close it out. I don't mind. Okay, so one thing I did want to add, the key thing is, as that commander, you can't be afraid.
Right.
You can't, on your first day one, you cannot be afraid to be the commander. Second thing is, you can't be afraid to have common sense and use common sense. Because I can tell you right now, as we're going out and about, doing listening sessions, and we've been to 28 installations, spoken to 10,219 people approximate, civilians and military. The feedback that we are hearing from the juniors is amazing. And the fact that our leaders, even at our company levels, don't use common sense. You can't be afraid. So I wanted to share that, because we tend to forget about that. And it's very important. And then the last thing is, our 3 A's. As a commander, you got to be approachable. You have to be available. And by golly, you got to be accessible. If you can't do that, then we have problems. Progress would never, ever happen. So I just wanted to share that and say thank you again. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. That's the key, that being strong, being courageous, being the commander. That comes with so many titles when you have that hat on. And company commanders, you have to know that you can reach up and ask questions. Be willing to ask questions to your battle buddies left and right. I have a company commanders mentorship program monthly. All my company commanders and I just sit down. I don't have battalion commanders or anybody there. That is their time to shoot me questions, but that is also my time to sit there and talk through whatever I remembered as a captain. And we just have an open dialogue. If you're not doing that with your subordinates and just having an open dialogue with them, when do they get a chance to ask the questions that they're not going to be judged on, Because we know when they go out there, everything they do, they believe they're going to be judged. Give them that free opportunity to talk to you and ask those questions and answer for them. And just remember the days you were sat in their seats. And so ask your bosses, ask them, see what they will tell you, and then go out and make sure you don't make the same mistake twice. Just understand that you're going to make a mistake. So team, thank you so much. Happy Women's History Month. I get excited about every observance every month. So I'm waiting on Hispanic Heritage Month, any other month that comes, because we have to acknowledge our brothers and sisters from different countries, our different genders. We have to acknowledge them to say that they are worthy, they are phenomenal, and we will continue to help them grow as much as we help ourselves grow. So with that, on behalf of the executive team that puts the FMP together, the liaison team at the Pentagon, and all of you great and wonderful people, and the people that are going to come up under you and learn from you, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the month, and we will see you next month with some more phenomenal people out there ready to talk to you. Have a great and blessed evening. Take care.